Hey everybody, what's going on? Jim here, and welcome to the next installment of the Jim Filoni vlog. I am so grateful for y'all to join me again on another. Now, I'm going to be starting a little bit of a series on this channel. It's going to be a four-part series in which I'm going to be ranking the individual eras of Godzilla movies. So we're going to be doing, in this episode, we're going to be doing the Showa era, and then in the next episode, we'll be doing the Heisei era, and the Millennium era, and then just for fun, we're going to be doing the American Godzilla films as well, which would also include the American recuts of Godzilla 1985 and Gojira 1954, aka King of the Monsters 1956. So, that being said, we're going to start with the Showa era. So let's go ahead and jump on in. So my number 15 movie is All Monsters Attack, aka Godzilla's Revenge. This is without a doubt the worst Godzilla movie ever produced. So basically it stars this kid, and he basically has dreams where he's teleported to Monster Island, in which he interacts with Manila, who is Godzilla's son, and it's just really, really cringy. This is definitely the most kid-targeted Godzilla film that I've ever seen, and even when I was a young kid, I did not like this one. It's got a lot of reused footage. The adversary monster Gabara is not good at all, not intimidating at all. And the subplot with the kid just was dumb, and I never enjoyed it even as a young kid. Number 14 is Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, aka Ebra, Horror of the Deep. I never enjoyed this one either, and for the life of me, I could never really peg why. But when I got older, I discovered that this wasn't even supposed to be a Godzilla movie in the first place. Originally, this movie was going to star Toho's version of King Kong, which is why Godzilla gets an energy boost from electricity in this movie, which is something that he's never had before. And then also, before Kong, after Kong didn't work, they were also going to, I guess, use Frankenstein, because they did a Frankenstein movie at one point. But then eventually they just settled on Godzilla because Godzilla would bring in the money. Number 13 is Godzilla Raids Again. This movie was a rushed sequel to the original 1954 Godzilla. In fact, it came out the very same year because Toho did not expect Gojira to be such a massive success, but it was. And it went, instead of the allegory route, it just went for a monster brawl movie. And it also introduced the world to Anguirus, the second Godzilla monster to, appear in the franchise. And, it does have some cool moments here and there, but overall, I don't like the suits that much, and it just seems very rushed, and I just don't care for it that much. Number 12 is Son of Godzilla. Now, this film's okay. This is one of the first ones that I can say I don't really hate it that much. There are some things I don't like about it, like the suit for Godzilla used in the movie, but it is a very unique take on Godzilla overall in terms of the story. And, it's got kind of a sad ending almost. It's like, oh, is this the end of Godzilla? But overall, it's not bad. It's just not my particular cup of tea. Number 11 is Godzilla versus Megalon. Now, I always had a kind of a soft spot for this particular one, but this is the movie that basically made Godzilla a joke in the West for ages. It was spotlighted on Mystery Science Theater 3000 and was also mocked when it was being aired on broadcast TV for the first time in the United States as well, because they had a comedian host the initial airing of it, and it just made Godzilla an absolute joke. And it's a stigma that the franchise only recently recovered from, thanks to the legendary Godzilla films here in the West. Number 10 is Godzilla versus Megalon. And this movie, it's okay. I like Gigan, I like King Ghidorah, and I think that the plot line is a little interesting, having like evil alien cockroaches run a monster theme park to take over the world. It's a little convoluted and silly, but I do enjoy it for the most part. Number 9 is Destroy All Monsters. Now, this film was basically the Avengers Infinity War / Endgame of the Godzilla franchise, where it basically had every single monster, and it was originally meant to be the bookend to the Godzilla series, but it made so much money that they had no choice but to continue the franchise. Yeah, it had a lot of great monsters in it. The fight at the end between King Ghidorah and basically all the other monsters is great. A little one-sided because Ghidorah just basically gets run over because of all the monsters rising up against him. But I would really like to see a modern reinterpretation of this in the future. I think Toho now, especially with the advancements in CGI that they've been able to do with the likes of Godzilla -1 and Shin Godzilla, I think they could do a really good job. Number 8 is King Kong versus Godzilla. This was the first major collaboration between Hollywood and Toho. Universal partnered with Toho to create this movie, and you know what? It's got some cheesy fun to it. You know, I wouldn't say it's my favorite by any means, but this was the first Godzilla movie to be featured in full color. I feel like the concept of having King Kong fight Godzilla is really interesting, despite the fact that Kong is really a lot smaller compared to Godzilla if you actually watch like the original King Kong movie. But you know, they do a good job of, you know, making the monster fights really fun to watch. There was once like a rumor that like the American version ended differently than the Japanese version. That ended up just being a myth. So, you know, don't buy into that particular falsehood. But yeah, King Kong vs. Godzilla is fun, and I'm glad that we finally got kind of a more modern interpretation with Godzilla vs. Kong from the Monsterverse. Number 7 for me is definitely the most wacky film in the Godzilla canon, and that is Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Hedorah is basically the smog monster. In the US, it was released as Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. And it's basically a anti-pollution movie, and it's one of the most trippiest and surreal Godzilla movies ever to be produced. You know, it was made, you know, right in the middle of the 60s. So there's a lot of freaky psychedelic imagery. And it's definitely not one to watch if you are under the influence of particular chemical recreational medication, you might say. Number 6 for me is Terror of Mechagodzilla. Now, this particular one, really, I'm of two minds of this one. I really like the monster battles in this one. I really do, especially the finale fight. I feel like it's some of the most gruesome battles we get in the series. We also have a unique monster in this one with Titanosaurus, which is a creature that hasn't appeared since this particular movie. However, this movie does kind of have the reputation of basically killing the Godzilla franchise. I don't really know if this was ever intended to be the bookend of the Godzilla series, but it definitely kind of feels like it as you watch the movie, and the fact that the director of the original film came back to direct this one, it just makes a lot of sense, you know, that this could be the bookend. But it didn't do that well in terms of critical reception and also from box office. So this would be the last Godzilla movie that we would get for over a decade until Godzilla 1984. My number 5 is Mothra versus Godzilla. Now this is probably one of the most iconic of the Godzilla movies. Here in the US, it was released as Godzilla versus the Thing. And they always put like, a weird like creature behind a big box on the poster, like, oh, what's Godzilla going to be facing in this movie? And it was like really a real big mystery, but it ended up just being Mothra. So I don't know why they just referred to it as the Thing. Mothra already was a well-known entity in, those particular circles back then, because Mothra's movie had released at this point. But for some reason, the distributors wanted it to have an air of mystery to it. And, that's fine. I think the posters for that time period are pretty interesting and, just fun in a cheesy way. It just kind of goes to show you how much movie marketing has progressed since back then. Nowadays everything's more unified and whatnot, but back then, different regions basically handled movie advertising completely differently, and it was really up to whoever had the film rights for distribution that made the rules. Number 4 is Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. This was the film that introduced the world to King Ghidorah, or Ghidorah, however you want to pronounce it. I always pronounced it Ghidorah because that's how everyone pronounces it in the movie and in the Pipeworks, Godzilla games, which I spent many hours of my childhood with. It's got a lot of interesting things to it, an alien princess with psychic visions, and it's also got a fun monster fight between Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan versus Ghidorah, and it was kind of the blueprint for Legendary's Godzilla, King of the Monsters in many ways. So yeah, it's a fun movie for sure, and one of my personal favorites. My number 3 is the direct sequel to Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, and that is Invasion of the Astro Monster. This particular movie was one that I would rent all the time from Hollywood Video because it was always one of the few ones that they had whenever I was visiting my dad, or living with my dad whenever I was living with him. And I just really loved it. I love the aliens in the movie, which were kind of the basis for the Vortak and the GameCube game, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters, and its subsequent sequels on other platforms. And it was just a fun movie. It's just a really fun movie, and it always stands tall as one of my personal favorites. My number 2 is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. This one was always one that I was excited to see whenever it would air on Sci-Fi Channel, and whenever I would rent Godzilla movies from the public library in my hometown of Richmond, that would always be one that I would make sure to grab. I really enjoy the monster design of Godzilla in this movie, and I also really enjoy the look of the classic Mechagodzilla. Just something about it's really cool, and I enjoy it a lot. You can probably guess that my number 1 movie is Godzilla, the original 1954 film. How could I not put this at number 1? It is the film that started it all. It is the most visually haunting one. It's the best allegorical one, and it's just a pure masterpiece. How Japan was able to put together a movie like this at that particular time period, it just still amazes me. You can tell it was a labor of love, and it's a movie that I can go back to all the time, and I'm so happy that it got restored by the Criterion Collection. Same with the other Showa era films. They were all restored by the Criterion Collection, and you can actually get a box set of all of them from the Criterion Collection right now. So that's really cool, and if you're a Godzilla fan, you should definitely look into that. So that is my list, ranking the 15 films of the Showa era. What are your favorite ones from this era? Let me know in the comment section down below. Until next time, I am Jim Filoni, and I will see you in the next one, where I will be talking about the Heisei era, my particular favorite era.